So should we get into the debate?
Yes.
Good.
Yes. Time time for the debate. Okay. I wanna know from Tobias first what his take is on this subject. Um, yeah, I'll just let you take it away, Tobias.
Wait 1 second. So, what subject exactly? I know we talked before, but
So, yeah. So the subject of sensitivity and softness. Um, what do you think? Do you think that we should be aim to be more soft, more sensitive, or what do you think? Because I know that I was saying I think that is a strength, and I think it's something that is actually difficult. It's easier. Personally, I think it's easier to be hardened in the world and to let yourself harden. Um, especially if you're someone who's really conscious and aware of everything, going on in the world, the good and the bad. Um, so for me, I find that it's actually easier to be not insensitive, and hardened. So that's why I started thinking that maybe being sensitive and soft was the real strength. What do you think about that?
that's a really good question. So, I mean, the three of us, we know each other from a Facebook group, right? The kind of like, let's call it self-development Facebook group. And their sensitivity is like seen as something very, very positive, right? Sensitive feeling is seen as
Mm-hmm.
very positive and so on, which I agree with. I do think it's, of course, when you're human, you want to be sensitive. You need to be sensitive, let's say, when you interact with a child or with animals or with yourself, actually. I just found that I think either being hardened by life or being sensitive, either one by themselves won't get you very far. Um, let's say, for example, I was raised and being sensitive was fine, but I guess in my
Mm-hmm.
environment, nobody tried to toughen me up a little bit. So later in life, I started with that, and I tried, martial arts and all kinds of things to like get that aspect, self-discipline and so on. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's important to have both at your disposal because certain situations will absolutely demand for you to be a bit, tough or to, go against some resistance or do this or do that. And other situations will demand of you to be soft and sensitive. And wherever you're lacking in that
Mm-hmm.
area, you will have a harder time getting somewhere because if you try, let's say you're working on an oil rig and you need to function, if you're too sensitive, you might just get hurt or not make it or something. At the same time, if you're working with people and you're not sensitive at all, you will probably also not make it because that's what's required there, You need social skills, empathy, and so on. So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely think it's good to develop, especially the sides that we lack. Um, but I do think if you put all your how to say it, what's the word? If you put all your cards,
All your
yeah,
eggs in a
exactly, all your
basket.
eggs in one basket, then let's
Yeah.
say either let's say you're in fashion or something and everybody's very sensitive, you can also just be sensitive all the time. That's great. Or let's say you work in construction, everybody's tough all the time and you're tough. That's also enough, I guess. So I guess the environment you choose dictates a little bit what you can be and what's helpful. What what do you guys think about the topic?
You want to go ahead,
I'd
Amado, or do you
like
want
you to
me to
comment on
comment
that.
on
I
that?
want to see where you guys stand.
Yeah. So I agree with you, Tobias, that there's a time and a place and different environments. You have to tap into different sides of yourself. Um, but I just think that we should still aim for more softness and sensitivity because we're so conditioned to be the opposite. Um, and I specifically, actually, I grew up and I was told I was too sensitive from like a very, very young age. And I was always told like to toughen up. And I was really like kind of treated like a boy in a way, which I like that side of me, that I have that super tough, strong side. I love that side of me. It allowed me to be a state champion wrestler. But at the same time, it also caused me to have to go to therapy because I didn't know how to be healthy and express these emotions. I couldn't cry, and it's like I had to learn I had to relearn that it was okay to cry because I never wanted to cry in front of anyone. And I just think whatever we suppress is kind of making us like sick. And so if we're always acting strong and we're always um, acting hard, and especially for men, it's worse for men. I don't know how you guys do it because it was hard for me as a female. So that's why you're right. We shouldn't completely do the opposite. It's not about extremes. You're right. It is more gray. It is more in the middle. Like, what's the balance, right?
Yeah, and I mean, of course, if one aspect of you gets suppressed by your parents or your environment, then obviously I think you're gonna suffer that. So I guess that's the areas where we need to like you know, where we need to strive to develop ourselves. Because if you were not allowed to be sensitive, then yeah, naturally I think later in life you will try to develop. And it's probably where you can make the most progress, right? Because the other aspect you perhaps already have, and it's not an issue for you.
Well, yeah. So I with everything you said, Tobias. I honestly do agree with you. I think you gave the perfect answer right in the beginning of the
Our
debate.
discussion is
You
over.
said it
I mean, I'm
perfectly.
not sure it was even, it's supposed to be like a debate. Yeah, it's more, yeah, talking. No, actually, yeah, debate.
No, it is
Yeah.
more. It is more of a discussion. I was just, trying to amp us up
Yeah,
a
no,
little
I
bit.
agree. Amado, what's your take on this?
Um, yeah, my opinion is not completely formed. I can tell you what comes up for me is that so I see sensitivity, or if you like hypersensitivity, as some sort of a filter through which I see life and the world around me. So, or if you like um, a, a costume or that I'm wearing, and I'm going to be wearing till the day I die. What I mean by this is that whether I'm trying to toughen up, whether I'm trying to develop a certain facet, a certain skill, hypersensitivity is going to it's going to be with me wherever it is I go. So when I hear you guys talk about, well, you have to have a bit of this, and then just mix it up with a bit of that, so you can have it both. I can agree with that, but I don't see it as. For me, it's not a matter of saying. Well, for me, it's not a matter of saying. I'm going to reduce my intake of this, and I'm going to increase my whatever of that. For me, it's like I am like this, and I don't feel I can be any other way. So even if I want to become a wrestler or a whatever it is, or like some I want to develop some skill that takes some say let's say courage or some sort of a tough spirit or whatever. I'm still going to be hypersensitive. So the thing is, I would go about developing that skill with my hypersensitivity. See, so it's like the flesh and bone that I'm made of, this hypersensitivity. And even if I want to develop a skill which is around those other, say, skills, then the hypersensitivity is going to come with me. And I don't think I'm being too obstinate with this. I'm saying, oh, hypersensitivity is going to be with me all the time. I think it's the way I've experienced it. Um, I think you can be hypersensitive and still be a tough person, which is kind of sounds contradictory, but you can still be the. So it's about how you manage that hypersensitivity while developing a skill which is around toughness. Um, so I didn't see it as just a pinch of salt here and a bit of pepper here. For me, it's like, no, I have this hypersensitivity, and it's the way I am. I don't know how that sounds, but that's how it, right off the bat, how it felt for me. Does that make sense?
But would you say it's
Sorry.
like you're mainly def this makes sense, but would you say it's like the main aspect that defines you? Because if you're saying I'm hypersensitive and this goes with me wherever I am, but you maybe also, I don't know.
It's a good point, yeah. Thing is,
But it's
if I,
interesting.
it's a good point. I'm thinking of myself sort of developing some sort of skill which is more around toughness. Like, I can see myself, working on that front. And then I would still think like if I really have a conscious look at what I'm doing, I would still feel that I'm suppressing something in me, and that is some sensitivity, so to speak. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have to be bad. Maybe it's like you say, you just in this version of yourself. It doesn't mean that you're not the other thing or that you're suppressing it. You're just in this other aspect right now. It's a tricky thing, right? It's like, because how much of it is
I
suppression
mean,
and how much of it is just, I'm just in a different aspect right now. It's not that I'm suppressing it, I'm just in a different aspect. How much of it is suppression, how much it's just not suppression, just a healthy balance, right? So
Well, I have another pro for sensitivity. I think we should be more sensitive because I don't know about you guys, but I would say that my intuition is pretty much always right. And I have ignored thousands of times. And I sort of, if we allow ourselves to be sensitive, then we get more information. Like not just emotionally, but like physically as well. Like if we allow that to come in, because I don't know, I fight against that. I think I'm like, because I don't want to be like too sensitive. I don't want to overthink something. I don't want to read into something. But at the same time, it's like you're kind of getting information and you just know, like intuitively, you know what you're picking up on.
it makes sense in the
Does that
way
make
I make it,
sense? Like
what I make it that mean, among other things. But one of the ways I use that info, that thing you just put forth is, what it makes me ask the question: what if hypersensitivity? I'm keep saying hypersensitivity because I guess everyone is. But anyway, sensitivity. What if sensitivity was not something that is in the way of you being tough? What if it's something that can actually enhance your toughness? Just by perceiving more things, you can make more sense of that toughness. You can actually become more tough in a more conscious way, if you like. So it's like you're actually, it's not toughness with where you bulldoze things like you just have to be tough because I'm a man and this is how culture works and this is how I'm expected to be, you know? No, it's like you kind of get to make sense of things like, okay, I'm this way. So it's actually helping you if used in a good way, in the right way. That's what I want,
I
because
really like.
we take
Sorry.
for granted, just to confirm, we just take for granted that the sensitivity is somehow opposite or opposing toughness or opposing bravery. And what if it wasn't the case, though?
yeah.
I like the way you two put this now. So basically, sensitivity is it's a lot about perception, right? We're sensitive to perceiving ourselves probably, feeling. So I guess if you could always have that like basically on, it's not a bad thing, right? You can always perceive in a sensitive way what's going on around you. I mean, I guess for example, many animals, let's say a tiger, is very sensitive, right? When they touch the floor, they hear something, they're very sensitive to their surroundings. It's important to them, even though they're strong animals. Same, yeah. So I think in this sense, it's interesting, and maybe it's just a little bit in our society that that being sensitive has not always been, society didn't always know how to incorporate sensitivity into life, you know. I guess at least, I don't know, yeah, to, you know, toughen up maybe often meant to, you know, ignore the sensitivity. So maybe it's also just that our society isn't great at getting those aspects, because maybe in some other cultures, maybe it's more possible, you know, to have your sensitivity and to have outlets for it, and to, you know, to learn how to be sensitive in everyday life and still not get, you know, eaten by a tiger. Think about, or I know, 100,000 years old. So we still function a little bit like that. And I think natural tribes, you know, when you read books about anthropology, they often just have a very balanced way of life. You know, they sing, they dance, they eat, they do all kinds of things. Life, in my opinion. So, yeah, maybe we need to find new ways in our society to get all of this under one hat. So it's interesting.
It's tricky. I find it tricky because as much as I'm kind of, let's say, advocating for sensitivity all the way, but I actually get to see the point, like what you were saying at the very beginning, Toby, about this topic, because bravery, courage, toughness, why not? Those are good qualities too, and those are come in really handy in life, and we can really, I mean, I wish I was more brave than I am currently, and I'm working on being more brave. Um, so, so it's that. I mean, it's good that you are here to actually say, hey, guys, let's not forget that there are other things that a man or a woman also may want to be in life, other than just being sensitive, right? So I was just trying to kind of put everything as maybe all these things, like when well managed, they actually feed on each other in a virtuous way. I guess that's the point I was trying to make. But I didn't want to say neglect or kind of dismiss the idea that bravery is a great quality to have that I wish I had more of. Yeah, and yeah, these abilities too. Yeah. So and it's funny because I have to kind of, I've been resisting those. I've been resisting those, and you know me, Toby, for like a few years, maybe 2 years or something. We haven't spoken much, but I was in resistance. I've been in resistance pretty much since I've been, say, since my awakening or something. Since I'm doing this inner work, I've been in resistance to this thing, perhaps because my masculine role models were not the greatest. Um, and I've been in resistance to this idea of toughness and bravery, and this, I associate it to violence and to torture and to you know, being violent to one another. And I've been in resistance to that. And only lately, only in the past 6 months, say, I started to kind of toy with the idea that this might just not be that bad. There's some virtue in it. It's just that I was looking at it through a negative lens. And so I want to say that I'm hearing what you say with this, and I'm opening myself more and more up to the idea of these qualities that you have advocated for them to be actual positives that I actually want to embrace and integrate.
That's awesome.
So I think that being brave and courageous and being sensitive, I don't think that they have to be mutually exclusive. So I was thinking about this when I knew this is what we're going to be talking about, and I think you can still be soft, sensitive, peaceful, but not passive. There we go. I think being passive
Mm.
is the problem. If you know what I mean. Will you stand up for yourself and others? That's being brave and courageous, and so that's the problem. Really, is being fearful, like you mentioned. So I think we can, I, but again, I think being soft and sensitive is almost even more courageous because I don't know. It just for me it seems easier to just get aggressive or act like so tough, and that almost to me seems like that's a front. Like that's easier to try to act that way, try to like scare someone, versus a different
You totally sold me
approach.
on that. So hands down. Yeah, yeah. I think you just threaded the yeah. I think you just hit the nail on the head with that. That's a terrific point. Yeah.
Thank you. And it's something I'm just learning right now. So that's why I'm glad we're
It's the
talking
same
about
thing
it.
with vulnerability, isn't it? I was talking about vulnerability to someone just a few hours back. Vulnerability has been seen, especially um, among men, as a weakness. Oh, you're vulnerable. You don't show your vulnerability to others. It's seen as a weakness, when in reality, a man who allows himself to be vulnerable and truly own that vulnerability, that's really brave. It's like the evidence of that is like not many men are able to do that. It's like I'm so strong that I'm allowing myself to put myself in a position where I'm vulnerable. I'm showing my vulnerability and opening up. Like, how brave is that? See, so it's pretty much similar to what you just said now about softness. And yeah, you can be active in soft. Yeah, I don't want to add any comma to what you said. You just said perfectly.
No, that was perfect. I love what you added. So I know that myself too. It's so much scarier to be
Yeah,
vulnerable and to just be like to not um to not try to hide your flaws, try to it's easier to try to act like you have it all together, like you're perfect and you know everything. Like it's easier to act
yeah,
that way, but if you're honest, that's
yeah.
true. That's not who you really are. We all have, you know, none of us are perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, we lost
So when,
Tobias. Oh, it took so
yeah.
long to get him back,
He
to get
went to
him
freeze
on.
mode when you said that. He couldn't handle that. Kidding.
Come back, Tobias. No, maybe the signal went out.
Yeah, well, awesome that you got to that realization, and it's helping me in a great way. You see, because this is it's a fine-tuning work, because like, we have all these preconceptions. Men do have them as like vulnerability as a weakness and stuff. It takes a while to actually grasp how it's not something that you just understand intellectually. You have to actually, no, wait a minute. I'm actually feel myself stronger when I open myself up to people. That's real strength. It's not like, when you're all armored, or like God is like, I have to protect 'cause I'm really so wounded inside. I go out of my way to just kind of protect that. Well, you might feel weak somewhere if you need to protect that. So yeah, by saying that is and it's perfect for me, because as a sensitive person who also wants to be more brave than I am, more vulnerable as well, and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you are.
Welcome back.
What's happening to you, Toby?
Hello guys.
Hey.
Some tech on and I can't use the headphones at the same time. So I don't know, can you hear the classical music now? It's like extra loud.
We've been hearing it a little bit, but it's not too loud right now.
Alright, sorry about that.
That's okay. We just keep pulling back more layers, and Amado was saying how there's so many preconceptions that you have to sift through when it comes to this topic. And I think that's exactly right. And that's why I've been arguing for the sensitivity sign, because at face value, it seems like, that's always been like, we were talking about like Taoism and their principle, and um, they believed the opposite of what our society praises, you know, like being strong and hard and all these things, but they're looking at it as like being soft is the true sign of strength, because something that is hard and brittle will break, and something that is soft is malleable. And they gave the example of water as well. And that's a really good one, because we know how strong water is. Like if you go in the ocean, that's scary. That can take you out. So that's like a good example of something so like soft and flowy, and it kind of just, they said that, you know, it freezes and it just changes form, and so it adapts. Um, you know, instead of being like, it doesn't try to force anything. It can be still and just, you know, just kind of flows.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's very hard in some ways, but because people maybe don't know, he was
Mm-hmm.
also like a dancer. He was like
Mm-hmm.
uh, what was it? Like some Latin American dance champion in Hong Kong back in the day. So he was talking about water, you know, like he definitely was a person who was very strong, at the same time
Mm-hmm.
very sensitive. Um, or if you see, you know, strongmen, they're literally the strongest people on earth. But you know, when they finish their competition, they're having the most fun. They're being like kids, you know, they're being absolutely hilarious. And so often I find that people who know that they're strong, they can totally allow themselves
Mm-hmm.
also to be sensitive. So they have both basically. Uh, I guess one reason why I'm advocating for, you know, trying to be, I don't know how to say, strong. Maybe not hard is not a great idea, but strength is something else. But I feel like you have to be able to defend your right to be sensitive. You have to be able to, you know, organize your personality and your life in a way that you're able to be sensitive. Because I feel like just being sensitive, only being sensitive, is not a solution either. Because yes, you can feel everything that happens to you, but there's a reason why, for example, uh, you know, some animals, I don't know why I'm going back to animals, but you know, they have like pikes outside, spikes to defend themselves, and inside they're soft. If they didn't have those spikes, they'd be very sensitive, they'd feel everything, but they would not survive very long. So
Yeah.
maybe instead of, yeah, what we were trying at the beginning, you know, should we be sensitive or not, maybe not the question. The better question is, how can one be sensitive, and what does it take to be able to sustain that and to keep that? Because I think every child is born sensitive, right? But then things happen that doesn't allow everybody to stay in touch with it. And some people do, some people rediscover it. So no, do you guys?
Well, it's really brave to be sensitive.
Let's say strong, capable.
Not many, to be honest.
Hello?
You're breaking up a bit, Tobias, but you're still there a little bit.
Yeah,
Are
you
you
are
guys
now.
still there?
Yeah, so I think that it's really brave to
Okay,
be
I can hear you
sensitive in a
guys.
world that doesn't embrace that embraces the opposite. You know, there's such a stigma around being sensitive. Um, and I think it is a balance, though. You don't want to be like hyper or too sensitive, even though I'm not really totally sure what that means. That kind of goes down another road, but someone commented, Ella said, when we become more sensitive to each other, we won't have to build an armor to protect ourselves from the world. Do you guys agree with that?
I do. I had to read it twice because I think to me the key is when she says, or he says, become more sensitive to each other. So in a way, it's like, if we open our hearts to each other, then how to put this? I'm just perhaps over-reading on this, but it's this separation, right? It's this fear of the other person, what he might do to me and stuff, that makes us have to armor ourselves and develop that sort of physicality, if you like, to not be aggressed and such. And that separation comes from fear. I'm perhaps reading, as I say, too much into this maybe, but like, and that fear is
No, I think
yeah,
you're
I
nailing.
guess I'm trying to say that oftentimes when we develop this physicality or this readiness for aggression and such, which doesn't have to be bad per se. Okay, I'm not saying that, but it might arise from a place of fear. Oh, I'm fearful. Since I'm fearful, I need to work on being able to protect myself. You know, but it stems from fear. Whereas if we are soft to each other and sensitive to each other, it's more of a place of love, if you like, because we're opening up to each other. Then maybe we can develop a strength that maybe can also be physical or otherwise, but it's more from a place of love.
Yeah.
I mean, armoring eventually, I think, is you protecting something, and you're protecting something. There must be some fear underneath. There must be some fear underneath, something that you need to protect yourself from because you feel fragile, you feel vulnerable. So eventually, is a frailty that is not being perhaps acknowledged or recognized. And hence, you put up this armor, this wall, or something. So I guess what we're coming up against here, all of us, not just me now, is like there's this duality, right? There's this, as Teal and many others say, like this contrast. There's always contrast. So we can see how we're making our points. We are making our arguments here, and but we come up to against this strength, but there's also vulnerability and there's this sensitivity. So they're pretty much intertwined. So they come together very often. So it's this contrast type thing, right? So like by being soft and being strong, although they seem kind of contradicting terms, but they come together pretty often, as we are seeing today in this discussion. So it's kind of two faces of the same two sides of the same coin type thing.
Yeah, I personally I admire men like you, Amado. You guys are the type of men that I think are strong because you're not trying to act like you're strong. You know you are. You don't have to act that way. So you embrace your sensitivity and that's the person that you are and you just are authentically yourself. You don't have to put on this front act like some tough guy, you know?
It's
And also how he mentally, I do think it's true, like some of the like celebrities that we know that are the physically strongest, they actually do have very soft hearts and they're very gentle and nice. Like one of them is like The Rock.
yeah.
I don't know if you know him, but yeah, like he's like a sweetheart. He's like one of the nicest guys. And it's funny that, we're talking about this now, and it's that I myself am trying to be more soft because I actually like I just started working out in the gym and trying to become physically stronger, but I feel the need to be like softer, like in another sense, which is funny to me because I just kind of made that connection tonight. But like you know. So I don't think like physical strength or like being able to defend yourself, I don't think that I don't know, like you can be both, like how we were saying, it's not one or the other.
Mm.
You can have it
And
all.
I'm curious. I want to know what Toby thinks about this, especially specifically about this these two concepts, these two ideas, this contrast kind of intertwining the softness and the strength and so on.
Yeah, that's actually a great question. Like, I think I was just thinking, because it sounded like you guys were very much advocating for if you're sensitive, you're automatically brave and you're automatically strong, because it's more brave to be vulnerable and sensitive and soft than it is to be, let's say, hard and so on. But then I was thinking, I know some people who are only sensitive, but they often suffer a lot and have, they get victimized, and it's like maybe classic a partner in a relationship that's always giving, always super sensitive to their other, but they don't have boundaries. So I don't think that just, being a very sensitive, soft doormat makes you strong or happy. So I do think that you definitely need both aspects. Because I do feel it's also, it's a bit harsh to ask your sensitivity to like do everything for you in life. I'm just gonna be sensitive to everything in the world. It seems to me that that's like letting yourself be a little unprotected, because you wouldn't go out into a snowstorm without clothes on, right? It's the same thing. You can still, if you're somewhere where it's a warm place, you can relax, you can take off your clothes. But if you go out into minus 20 degrees or into a rainstorm, you need to have the equipment for it. So when you get back, your sensitivity is still in touch, not in touch, what I want to say. It still works, it's still there. So that's what I'm thinking, that like putting your sensitivity as your first layer for everything and expecting it to get to basically fight all battles for you, and we do have to fight some battles in life. I think it's very harsh to ourselves. I think you need to also protect your sensitivity a little bit, and you need to find the right place in life for it. And I do think a lot has to do with, uh, with abilities. Like, some people who are very able, let's say in the business world, they can allow themselves to, let's say even physically, get a nice home where you can be very sensitive, or be in the right places with people where they can be sensitive and so on. If you're not very skilled at certain things in life, your sensitivity might be, you might be in bad places or with people that don't allow you to be sensitive and so on. So I think I don't know how to call the other part really. Sensitive is one side. What's the other side? Is it strong? Is it being tough? I don't know. But yeah, I do think they go together. Like we're saying the same thing actually for the third time, but it's interesting. It's like trying to get at it from different angles, trying to find out what we actually mean, because it's, you've never
We,
thought about these things.
I, I think we should say soft and hard because there can be strength in both, right? Like how you're saying at the right time, like, you know, maybe maybe being soft 24/7 isn't the answer in all situations, like how you mentioned. Oh my God, sorry. Um, but so maybe sometimes it's hard, and I have come across those situations too. So I think you are probably not 100%, you know. But I think that there probably are more situations that could be handled in a soft manner than hard, because the way that the world now is that the majority of everything is handled in a hard manner. Like one example is the way that we try to reform our citizens that commit crime, and we throw them in a cell behind bars, and we let them get assaulted, and they live a miserable life. It's hell, you know. But like if you look at Finland, how they do it is totally different. They don't even have their inmates in handcuffs or even locked behind bars. They're allowed, and not even wearing prison clothes. They're allowed to go out in the community and be normal and go to school, and like, so they're actually learning skills they didn't have. So the way that they're approaching their criminals is very extremely soft. Like, this is probably one of the most extremely soft examples of reform versus here. Oh my god. And if you look at the research, Finland has one of the lowest recidivism rates, which is people going out and committing the crime again. They have one of the lowest percentages of reoffenders, whereas here in the U.S. we don't do
Hmm.
anything to help them. We just make them worse, and they're going out and they're just, we have career criminals. Their lifestyle is just getting out, committing a crime, going back in, getting out, and so that's like one example of how our world focuses so much on being harsh, and we think that that is the way to approach it, but that's not working as far as if we're actually reformed.
So that's a great example, actually. That makes lots of sense because it empowers
Yeah.
people instead of just making life harder for them. Yeah, very good example.
Yeah, that's one example. Um, but there's probably a million examples if you look at like the societal structures. There's probably, I feel like, I mean, I can't. I've been so annoyed at the whole war propaganda. All the like military and war and all that. Like, it's. I think that's also why this topic is really big for me right now, because it's like, how do we want to be in the world, to be the opposite? Like, that's, I'm totally against war. Like, that's, I'm on the opposite end of that. But like, how do I be in life? Because I could get angry and mad and just think like, oh, like, just in total fear, and like, just want to like protect myself. but
Hmm.
but then I realized that like that's not going to solve anything really. Like, if I match that vibration of war, how is that going to create the opposite of war if I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there have actually been, like some peaceful revolutions that were always quite successful. Maybe India, how they gained their independence from the British Empire. It was basically they just started making their own clothes and like stopped cooperating and were very peaceful. It was very powerful. Um, Maybe the Soviet Union, how that fell, it was also kind of a peaceful transition. So it does happen sometimes, I guess. Um, yeah, I don't know what tools they have. Maybe clarity, conviction, things like this, and probably a sense of togetherness or something. It would actually be very interesting to want to be part of something like that. We live in a time, I guess, in the US or in Europe, many things are settled. There's no big movements or revolutions going on. Um, I think it would be extremely exciting to be part of something like that, to experience how it feels like, what's happening. Happy. When the Berlin German Wall, how do you guys call it in English? The wall fell, you know, people were so happy. It was like changed many people's lives, I guess.
Yeah, but Tobias, I think what you're saying is that it's dangerous to be passive, to be a doormat. So I think that is the ultimate danger, is like not doing anything, like just completely. So that would be like the complete opposite side of, like taking, like that's like on the other end, like not doing anything. So I think that's anything that really, like we don't want to be on either end, like violence on one end or like not doing anything on the other end. So there is some sort of balance, and I guess just trying to figure out what that is.
I wanted to say something about, because Tobias said that sensitivity is not the only desirable, say, feature, characteristic that you want to have, you know, in your toolkit. It's gone, apparently. Yeah.
I think his phone died.
I was just going to say that I would agree that, because he said that we were trying to kind of equate like sensitivity to being stronger, which I think we agree that that's not the case. Sensitivity doesn't make you stronger and doesn't mean that you are strong. It's not the same thing. And in fact, as he said, there's many people who are sensitive who become doormats and stuff, and just sensitive. So I'm someone who feels a lot and very intensely, but does nothing about it, and just kind of surrenders to that in a very passive way. Fair enough. But I wanted to say, I want to bring up the following kind of idea, which is sensitivity doesn't make you stronger. However, I think sensitivity, in a way, pushes you to having to be stronger. I mean, it doesn't make you stronger. It's up to you eventually. But by being more sensitive, you're going to be more overwhelmed. You're going to feel more, like, make it more intense. So you have the choice to actually develop that strength, inner strength, as well as outer strength, if you want to. But it's really it's like gonna push you, like Teal puts it. It's like gonna, how does she turn up the pressure cooker or something like that, the stove.
Yeah.
And it's true, because it's like, well, what are you going to do with this? What are you going to do with the fact that you're feeling very intensely? Do you just want to kind of, you just, kind of recoil, kind of just close, shut down, and just allow everything to happen to you, and you don't get it to have a say really in life, and you don't get to stand up for yourself, which is one choice? Or do you actually develop whatever it is you find you need to develop to kind of make sense of the sensitivity that you've been given to live this life with? So my point was going to be, no, sensitivity is not strength per se, but I think, or at least that's how I feel it for myself, from my own experience. Like, I think sensitivity pushes us to have to be stronger in many ways, in many facets, right? In many aspects of life. Yeah, that's kind of how I see it. And you said these words you were telling me is like this authenticity and stuff. Yeah, it's gonna make you work harder at being authentic. Okay, you're very sensitive, you're feeling a lot. You can feel how the other person opposite you in the room is feeling, or you can feel to a good extent. What are you gonna do about it? Are you gonna shut down? Are you gonna numb yourself out? What are you gonna do about it? So, oh fuck, what do I do with this? How do I manage this? And it's an invitation, I guess, from life, from the universe, from the body and spirit, or whatever the body, this human body that you were born into. It's an invitation, I guess, from the life you've been given to say, well, here's a chance for you to develop this strength, this inner strength, and this authenticity. So I think this is why people like Teal, I keep mentioning Teal, but it could apply to anybody, ourselves as well, perhaps. They are very sensitive, and also some of them, I'm not saying this is the path that everyone chooses, but many of them develop a good degree of authenticity, which is, I think we could agree, is a strong feature. So, voila, that's what I want to say. There's as always, I was sort of holding before, that there's this intertwining, right, between the softness and the strength all the time. Yeah. And I wanted to know if Toby was seeing this, because I wonder if he has in mind the picture of someone who's really, really strong, as you were saying, putting out an act, So I'm so strong, nothing can break me. And but I think you and I and him too, and I want to make sure that he sees that too. There's, you see, obviously at face value, you see a very strong man or woman or businessman, you know, or what have you. That's what you see, you know, that's face value. But as said, as I've been saying, as we've been saying, there's softness where there's strength, there's also weakness where there is sturdiness, see? And those people who are like so sturdy, so muscly, whatever, think of the example you want to, or the what's the word, the businessman who has to make decisions and like not be very sensitive about it, you know? It's like it has to be ruthless and what have you. I mean, I think you and I get to see how there's a fragility in that too. Does that make sense? I mean, at face value, you see the ruthless person, but I mean, think of a tyrant, right? Think of a despot. Yeah, oh yeah, they're so mighty, right? They're so powerful, but I mean, I think we get to see conscious beings like us. We get to see how there's also a certain degree of fear and frailty and fragility in what they're doing. So I wanted to see if Tobias was able to see that, so was able to see past the person who's just ruthless and tough, because that's what we get to see. Okay, but can you see underneath that? Because we all have both. I think that's an important takeaway from today. I think it's the fact that underneath every display of, say, might or power, there might be some fear, there might be some weakness, if you like, or some self-perceived weakness that you have to, you know, act it out, you know, by imposing yourself on others and stuff like that. And the other way around too. When you feel you're powerful, and you were saying that just a while ago, when you feel really confident or really authentic or really powerful, whatever, or courageous, you don't feel you have to show it off. You don't feel you have to, you know, announce
Announce it.
and have everybody, you know, have everybody know that and notice that. So I think that's the point I wanted to. Unfortunately, he dropped out, but I think that's important because yeah, I myself, I also see. Oh, I see what it's before my eyes. You know, I see the strong political leader, whatever. But as soon as we scratch a little bit and we do that consciously, we can also see a weeping child sometimes. You know, my God, they don't seem to be very mature, as mighty as they are. You know, so there's that. And I know I've noticed you've had this in mind all along. So I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I do, and I really appreciate your perspective on it, your personal perspective, and yeah. Hey,
No
Tobias.
classical music anymore. You're outdoors now. Oh no, you're in a lobby or whatever.
Oh, he left again. Well, so I really appreciate that you brought to the table that, um, you know, just like being able to be sensitive and be brave and courageous and, to do what's right, even though you're sensitive. It's sort of like, because if you're inherently sensitive as a human, just who you are, right? We all feel fear as humans. There's no way to turn that mechanism off. We're always going to feel fear sometimes, which is good, survival mechanism. But other times it's not good. It's not serving us. But basically, the rumor is that some people don't feel fear. No, we all do. It's just some people, they do things despite the fear. You know,
Sorry guys, my iPhone 7 is doing its best.
yeah. Okay. Did you want to bring any
Oh,
by
yeah.
Again?
Because you were not listening. You were completely out of that. Okay. Well, let me see if I can make the point that I was just whilst you were away.
No, I did hear you. I was watching you
You
guys
were
on my
watching us,
laptop when it
but
was
you were
off.
not. Okay, you were.
oh you hear it?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I guess
Oh, okay,
I
you're hearing
guess
us.
we kind of came to an understanding that yeah, both things exist. There's people who are only tough, there's people who are only sensitive, and there's people who have both, I guess.
Yeah,
And
and
yeah,
sorry to interrupt. And it's even more than that to me. I think it's more like there is both almost in every aspect. If that makes
say
any sense.
again,
There's kind of
say again.
there's kind of both in every aspect of us. There's some weakness to people who display a lot of strength, a lot of might, and there's a lot of strength in people who do not show it off so much and do not make this display of strength. You know what I mean? There's an inner strength to that. There's a real strength to that too. So I'm trying to. I guess my point is like there's both in almost everything. Yeah, because.
I guess that's true. Yeah,
Sorry, I
I
had a clap.
recently heard like just in a podcast the other day, I heard someone make the examples of like the Dalai Lama or Mother Teresa. They're considered as very strong, powerful people to an extent, but neither are they physically strong nor are they in any way harsh, I guess. They just have an inner power, I would say. But I also would say what?
They're
I would
mentally
say
strong.
so, probably, right? Yeah. But I also think, yeah, that there's also just some people who are maybe physically very strong, and it doesn't mean that they're also weak at the same time. I think it's all right. There's some people who are just, I mean, how to say, there's different aspects of strength. Some people are clearly physically very strong. Some people are clearly mentally very strong. And I guess that allows you, to an extent, helps with being sensitive, I would say. But yeah, I think we're basically just highlighting different points.
Yeah. Also, I want to
Maybe
say there's also people who are. I see many people that seem physically very strong, and to me, and this is my intuition, I could be wrong. They seem mentally not very strong. You know what I mean? As if the physical strength that they were working out on, they were working on, was kind of a cover up for some insecurities or some like inner weakness that they perceive to have themselves. They would compensate with working out. And I'm not saying that everyone who goes to a gym. I try to work out myself. And I'm not saying that every muscly man or woman is like that. But I've met quite a few who's like, oh my God, they seem very insecure in many aspects. As much as they have an amazing body, a really muscular body. You know what I mean? So it's like all this contrast, you see. And I'm sure you've met quite a few like that too, Toby.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Definitely that exists. I feel like nowadays it's getting less because I feel like people start, for example, strengthening their body for different reasons. Like most people nowadays that I see, they also see the correlation of, working out and strengthening the mind, for example.
True. Yeah.
So I think it's gotten to a more healthy place, whereas in the past, if somebody was super jacked, sometimes maybe they were not the greatest people. I used to work actually in a gym 15 years ago, like when I was just right in school or just out of school. It was quite funny seeing people coming in and out, and you would have exactly both kind of characters. Some people, they, they looked very strong, but they weren't internally strong. You would know. They didn't, look that strong. Maybe they weren't even physically that strong, but for example, they came there for like 15 years, 4 times a week, or very disciplined people. And maybe in the long run, they would have way more benefits for the gym than other people who just went there for other reasons. So, yeah, I guess there's way more to a person than meets the eye at first sight. Yeah, people are like really tough, or which people are strong, or which people are sensitive. Well, yeah, after a while, after getting to know someone, You really know.
I hope you don't mind me quoting Teal, yeah, but it just came up for me now. Something that I heard Teal say one time, and there was someone on stage with her, and or something like that, and for some reason they were talking about the people who you know, the big champions of boxing and all these martial arts
Yeah.
and stuff. Not martial. They didn't mention martial arts because I think there's a spiritual component to martial arts, specifically to some more Eastern perhaps martial arts and stuff. But for some reason they were talking about, I don't know if it was like working in the armed forces or in the, you know, army or police men and women and all this, but also maybe boxing or stuff like that. So I don't quite remember um, parts, what professions they were talking, yeah, about, you know. But and I remember Teal. I just remembered now. Teal said to someone, "Do you know who ends up in those, or do you know why people end up in these types of positions?" And Teal said something like, and please don't take my word, okay, because I'm probably misquoting her, but there was something along these lines. She said. She said, "These are the people who are the most afraid." Again, please don't take my words, but there's something along these lines that she said. And she just said it once, and it was a random conversation she was having with someone. These are the people that are the most afraid, and they have to, they put an extra effort into working on how much security they can provide for themselves. You know, you have a gun, then you like, at least you kind of feel safer, because you don't feel so safe when you don't have that gun. But again, I'm not calling anybody weak. Is this not my task here today? I'm just trying to see how this contrasts and everything. And again, yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we can take away as well is that it's not all black and white, because like we were saying, it does take a lot of mental strength to get yourself to go work out, you know, because it hurts and it takes effort and
Yeah.
it's hard. You know, and that doesn't make you a bad person, obviously, or a scared person because you want to be physically fit, um, or you want to have good health. But I do see what you're saying. Like, for people who are addicted to the gym, like they have to work out like every single day, like, and it's like an addiction. And that seems like it's an overcompensation unless you're a professional athlete. Because if you're a professional athlete, then that's just what you do for a living. You have to do that. But yeah, but of course it's about protection, but I also think it's wanting to be competent and healthy as
We have
well.
some comments there. So Toby apparently is gone for good.
Hey, he came back for the final
And
input.
we've got this comment. She says, muscles are also physical layers of protection. Yeah, yeah. It's uh, it's a tricky thing. I think you can, yeah. This is why, like, this idea of strength and toughness and that, it's like it's not as evident as sometimes we think it is, right? And I'm really happy that you are able to, from the get-go, you're able to spot that, to see that. Well, wait a minute, this is not as evident as it looks. Um,
People are usually not
yeah,
black and white. Like we're all these. I think this is Teal as well. Like
yeah, yeah.
we're each a
Let,
universe in
let
the world,
alone the fact that
right?
oftentimes we put out the facade that we want to be seen, which oftentimes can also be a distraction from what we truly are, from what we're truly afraid of, to have be seen, to get be seen, you know, from us. So I do that all the time. It's like, oh, I want to be seen a certain way because I don't want people to see me that way. So I'm going to pretend to be that type of thing. Well, there you go, one type of facade, but there's something else underneath. So yeah. Yep.
Well, I think that was a great discussion, and I think it's well, I know for me I'm kind of at the beginning in a way. Like I know that this is going to be a lot of like relearning, like how the way, like how do I think in the world, what do I think is right for me, um and so I like how Tobias said that, you know, you lean one way or the other, then you probably should work on the one that you struggle with. So for me, it's definitely it's a fine line, but I think ultimately I want to be soft, instead of like being hard, because it's easier for me to be hard, to be honest. Like being a woman, like especially when there's like, you know, like men who are like threatening, it's easier for me to like not be my true self because I protect myself. But at the same time, I actually don't need to protect myself because I know if I needed to, I can. Like, so I want to be able to be soft. To me, that will be more brave,
Yeah,
for
I
myself.
commend you on that, and I think I want the same for myself. I mean, I don't need to be, you know, I want to stand up for myself, that's for sure, but that's not incompatible with being soft. And I like being soft. I like softness. I like warmth. I think I have some of that, and I think I take pride in that because I think it's part of my charm, and I like other people who are like that too. So yeah, why not have the best of both worlds, being stronger while at the same time you're allowing yourself to be soft because you know you're strong. By the way, on the sensitive thing though, where I struggle more is not on things like, oh, I want to be sensitive, or I don't want to be sensitive. I guess I've come to a point where I've accepted it. Accepted it sounds like some sort of a curse. Um, uh, I think oftentimes I think I've abandoned myself for being sensitive, unwittingly. You know, I wasn't aware. Um, Situations where I would feel kind of stressed, anxious, you know, something is coming up for me, but I wouldn't pay attention to that. I would suppress, shut the crap up, you know? And that was not very nice on myself. That wasn't very kind. And I would kind of play along with society. Okay, well, society's a certain way, so I have to kind of fit in instead of actually paying attention to this thing, to this alarms, bodily alarms, these sirens, right? Now I think I'm if I need to, I withdraw myself from the situation that's stressing me a bit, at least a bit more than I used to, but still, I still want to be even kinder to myself. And if, you know, sensitivity kind of goes off, the alert, the alarm goes off, then I want to be self-loving enough to pay attention to it and not abandon myself to try to play by the rules or play by, you know, by whatever it is, the social convention that I'm at. Um, Yeah, so that's what I've kind of struggled more with sensitivity, kind of accepting. So in a way, I'm kind of asking you to if you've had the same very same thing going on for you, which is situations where I would feel that I'm, say, more sensitive than the rest of the people in a certain in a given social setting, and in order to kind of fit in, or in order not to to stand out too much, or to, you know, cause a stir, what have you. um, I would I would I would try to suppress that unconsciously, but it's like, oh well, shut up. That's not the time to kind of that type of thing. And it never really worked. It never really
Oh,
worked. So I don't want to be like that anymore. I want to accept myself. I want to accept that sensitivity or extra sensitivity that I feel I have compared to the average person, and say, well, this is the way I am, and I'm going to honor it. It's very recent, this thing. I'm just talking last month, last 2 months. Like, oh, wait a minute. I'm going to honor the fact fact that I'm hypersensitive, and yeah, I just have a different way of functioning. So I just cannot function like the rest. It's about coming to terms with that reality, see? But for a long time, all my life, not as young as I may look, I guess, it's been a long time where I've always, no exceptions, suppressed that just to fit in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I relate to you. I have the same experience, and um, that's why I'm saying like it does take more strength to honor yourself and like your feelings that are coming up for you. Like I think it takes more strength to like remove yourself from that place where you are, where you don't want to be. Like, you know, um, for me it's easier to, like you said, just kind of be a chameleon and just kind of like um adjust to where you are and like, or like play the game. To me, like with work, I see it as a game. Like the way everyone acts, like they act a certain way, like, and I know how to play the game, but I don't need to. Like I know that. I'm conscious of that now, though. Like I actually don't need to, right? But and I need the job, so I have to do it to some extent, but in reality, I really could be a lot more of myself. It's just that we're so conditioned to just be like everyone else, you know?
I would say even in the context of the job, of the workplace, I don't know how much leeway you have, but you can still, I guess, I'm just winging it here, right? Because I don't know what your work is and stuff. But you could actually perhaps create your own profile, your own identity, your own way of doing things, whilst honoring who. I mean, just precisely honoring who you are. It's like, wait a minute, I don't need to answer or behave the way my colleague behaves just because that's the thing that it gets done here. This is how it's done here. Maybe I can create my own way. Maybe it's more authentic. It's more honoring of myself, and maybe people are like, wait a minute, and even you can even perhaps pull it off with your own style, with your own way of doing things. So, but yeah, I know social conditioning is a.
Yeah. And like with what you were saying, if you can't take yourself out of a situation where you don't want to be, well, I think it's still okay to have that experience, and then after it, check in with yourself and like be honest with yourself about how you felt in that environment or situation or scenario, um, and then kind of decide like, okay, now I know that's something that's not for me.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
We have some comments, and I think they might be quite valuable. Do you want to read them? Okay.
Yeah.
I think the first, I mean, the first one that we haven't read yet, which is kind of like, I guess, relevant, is the one that says, I always found embracing dichotomy interesting because it shifts me into the awareness, the alertness so easily.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that goes with what we're saying, right? Like
it's challenging to embrace
about
dichotomy. Come on, it's really challenging, isn't it? Sure. It's like, yeah, I mean, I'm coming to terms with that. Like, it's gonna be dichotomy or contrast, as I say all the time. But sometimes you just want things to be one way. It's like, oh, it could be just so yummy to just be this way, like for like 48 hours. Then okay, then I'm going back into the challenge. But just give it to me like easy on me, for a little bit. But yeah. So when she says interesting, I would just say challenging. But perhaps she's more optimistic than me. Interesting and so useful, both for witnessing the inner tidings and seeing all of it appearing in other people. Then connection happens. She must be referring to something we said. I don't know. We've got Ella Yoli saying, I got very ill by not honoring my sensitivity and how my limits would look different from other people's limits. Wow. Well, that's, yeah. like the body's pushing you, like either be yourself or you're getting sick. Yeah. Acting too strong, bulldozing. I thought that was strength before I got ill. Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, that's like being between a rock and a hard place, right? It's like, okay, I still want to fit in this situation, so I have to. I feel I have to play. I want to play along, so I can kind of be off the hook, kind of like not be looked at like suspiciously. But now you're getting sick if you just do that for too long. So yeah. Hmm. Challenging. I wrote that word and then erased it. Oh, she loves challenges. All right. Yeah, I like challenges, but just give me one challenge per week, not like every single day.
Well, I think I don't know. I will admit I'm always kind of trying to go
Oh, you really?
against the
That's
norm. Like,
awesome.
yeah,
Kudos.
I will admit that's definitely my
So you have that,
personality.
yeah? That's a
You,
personality trait that you have. You kind of like, okay,
I'm
okay.
rebellious for
See
sure.
how Tobias said when we were chatting before this live video broadcast. He said that I was heretic. I love that adjective. He said to me, of me, he said that I was heretic, meaning like heresy. You know, it's like I feel like that too, but at the same time, I'm agreeable to an extent. I'm being not agreeable. I'm not forcing myself to be agreeable with you guys today. I actually agree with you on many topics. But as soon as things get too comfortable, I was like, wait a minute, no, that's something else. Okay, well, wow, that's amazing. I really like, if you really are like that, that's great. We need more people like this.
I really like that. Yeah, it, but again, it's different aspects of ourselves because I'm extremely agreeable in other ways. Like with getting along with people, I somehow I know how to get along with almost anyone, but I may not be completely authentic to myself when I'm doing that, but I have that ability to kind of be in any room
Mm,
in a way. And I
okay.
think because I'm a Pisces, we're supposedly all 12
Uh-huh.
zodiac signs in one. Kind of have that chameleon ability, which makes me like very agreeable because I
Right.
can get along with pretty much anyone. But I am very rebellious when it comes to like rules being
Uh,
imposed that I don't agree with and like laws
oh,
and norms, like we
okay.
were saying, like certain norms
Mm.
that don't resonate with me.
So
Yeah.
it's mostly about around rules that comes to mind to you, yeah? So-
I think so. Yeah, power that like control, being controlled by more
Okay,
powerful like government
I have that
and
too.
things like that.
I have that too. But the first thing that comes to mind for me when I think of my rebelliousness, yeah, rules as well. But first thing that came to mind was more like ideas or more like a certain level of integrity in people. So as soon as I see what I perceive
Mhm.
to be like something that's not doesn't have much integrity or someone who's not acting with integrity, I may point that out in kind of in a not in a very direct way, because I was going to ask you, like, are you good at voicing your disagreement? Are you good at when you're being rebellious? As a Pisces, do you
Mhm.
manage to kind of like voice that in a way that's not felt as, it's not received as offensive or as aggressive?
Um, well, I don't do it very much because a lot of times I know what I'm saying to a particular person, they won't be able to hear it from the
Mm,
frequency that they're on. Like if I disagree with someone, I will more so let them have their opinion and I won't even voice mine in opposition very often because again, I've done that so many times and people only kind of hear what they're ready to hear or what they're
okay.
open to
You pretty
hearing.
much know your audience, so
So
to speak. You know who you're talking to. You know how it's going to land with some people, how it's not going to land with you. All right.
yeah,
So in
yeah.
my case, more about around, as I said, integrity. So if someone has done something that for me kind of, because then I have a lot of assumptions, so sometimes I may misjudge how someone, maybe it wasn't that they were acting with no integrity, but maybe it was me, I was biased because of this or that, or my own trigger, my own trauma, whatever, you know. So I make mistakes. It's not that I'm happy to make mistakes, but sometimes I need to be myself and I feel a certain way. I'll voice it if I make the mistake, then I will say, hey, I apologize. It was totally. So yeah, if someone is like not acting with integrity or just manipulative or stuff like that, I'm not very good, by the way, at communicating it. I will kind of hold it in for sometimes. So because I have this fear of upsetting people, that's something I need to work on more. It's like yeah, it's a difficult subject for me, like the idea of having people, you know, upsetting people. But of late, I've been practicing that, and I have to say, I'm still starting. So I come off, I think, a little bit kind of blunt or kind of not rude, but blunt. I would say more like a like an elephant in a china shop, as they say, right? And sometimes, so it's like I'm not the most tactful person at communicating those things, and I know there's gonna be
Yeah.
there's gonna be a friction, and I hate it. And then, in fact, and this is perhaps if you like manipulative of me to do, but like I will shame them if they um, react in a bad way to my coming out clean and just telling it to them as it like it is. Do you know what I mean? You, like you don't
Yeah.
get to get mad at me for saying for voicing something that's true and authentic. And anyway, won't work. But,
No, yeah, I am so um I'm learning that skill too right now because being too agreeable got me way too much trouble, way too many situations I didn't want to be
yeah,
in.
yeah.
And I was a like, you know, I was too passive. It was terrible. So I am also now on the other side of that and learning, like you said, to be direct and in communication and to express your needs because
I
I
can
would
relate.
put everyone's
Yeah,
over mine. And yeah, and I know what you mean. Like when it comes out,
yeah,
it's kind of new. Like yeah, for me,
yeah.
it could be very blunt.
I can relate
You
to
know, yeah.
what you say that you have been very agreeable, and it gets you into situations, right? And gets you in many pickles, so to speak, and like it's like, oh my God, I can't keep on living like this because I just get into trouble, my own trouble, my own, it's not benefiting me. Um, so I, this is perhaps not the healthiest thing, but I want to say it anyway because this is the stage I'm at the minute. Um, I find some leverage um, in the following. So, by being agreeable, or by more like, in my case, I would call it more like by being afraid of upsetting people, like being in fear of having a fear of upsetting people, I get myself into trouble, into difficult situations where people perhaps expect too much of me, that I'm not ready to deliver, or they just don't respect my boundaries, what have you. When I communicate that, it's going to come off as blunt, as we said. And since I'm afraid of upsetting people, that's quite triggering for me to have to make people upset. And since I don't have much control of my communication, when I voice is, hey, wait a minute, this is a boundary of mine. I find some sort of a leverage, I'm going to say just a little bit, a wee bit, in the idea that I picture them manipulating me. It's not that I picture them, it's like I feel that they are, I think you know what I'm going to say. I feel they are taking advantage of the situation that I was really kind to them, or you may say, and I see them taking advantage of that. Say, like, wait a minute, are you actually taking advantage? are you actually so selfish that you're not considering my part of the pie? You're not considering that I have these needs and stuff. So that builds some anger in me, you know? And I use that to say, like, you don't get to take advantage of me in this way. Anyway, that's just the stage I'm at the minute. I mean, that's not the soft way, and that's not the healthiest of ways. But at least, hey, I'm speaking up. It used to be worse than that before.
It sounds to me like you need to you do need to speak up for how you feel and your needs in the situation, or
Oh, yeah.
else you'll
Yeah.
become resentful
Yeah.
when they know when they're but then it's like, oh, people aren't mind readers, we have to tell them, and we wish we didn't have to, right? Because we anticipate others' needs and
Did
pay
you say what I was
attention,
going
and
to
we
say?
are like
I
attuned to
mean,
people.
what you was just so I did, sorry, just so I got you right. What you're saying is that as sensitives, we are able to perceive that in other people. So we always have on the radar. We always have the fact that we have their well-being at heart. So we're always concerned about that. Is that what you're saying? And we expect other people to
Yes.
have that ability as well. Yeah.
hmm yeah, and then they don't. So then we feel like taken advantage of, or our needs aren't being met, or our feelings aren't being honored. So for me, this is my second time or third. Like, I have had 2 strikes, right? I'm kind of on the third strike of learning that when I don't voice my feelings and needs to the person, it just
Yeah.
causes more pain on both ends, because you might as well just tell them from the jump, from the get-go, how you feel, and
Yeah.
like, honestly, because it gives so much. Like, you just end up in a worse situation, right? Like, when you don't tell them till later, till it's too late, and then it's
Yeah.
just so much
Yeah.
drama.
Yeah. The sooner you address that, the better. Yeah. Hmm.
That I'm realizing. So we need to be okay with hurting people's feelings. And I'm not saying to be mean, but we need to be okay with that, because either way, their feelings are still going to get hurt,
Hmm.
just not right
That's true.
now. Like next month or whenever it
Yeah, I guess.
is.
Yeah, terrific point. I really have no objection to that. So yeah, I appreciate that you say that. I guess that in the back of my mind, I kind of, I guess, but I don't know if this is just a cop out, but I'm like, I'm just gonna give them the opportunity to actually care about me genuinely. You know what I mean? So like, let me see how far they can go into trying to really care for me. So I mean, it's like how much they really do genuinely care about me, and how much they're just doing it for their own sake. So I guess there's always this doubt, or this benefit of doubt that I give them. Like, okay, I'll let you roll for it. I'll let you, take the space, so to speak. But because maybe you actually have my interest at heart. Maybe you'll ask me how I'm doing after all. So I kind of give them the chance to do that. I'm not saying it's what needs to be done, but I'm saying that in the back of my mind is that there's that hope that I will come across sensitive people who will be attuned to that. Turns out most aren't, but yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I I think, I think we won't really have to it's not that, like, giving people a chance or the doubt, and I agree with you on that. We should do that. But as soon as we kind of know,
Yeah.
intuitively, should just
Yeah.
trust ourselves,
Yes.
and trust
That's
ourselves
you got
more.
me there because I lie to myself subconsciously, but I do. Like, no way, they're nice. Well, maybe they're just thinking about their own needs and interests, and that's fine. So you need to just draw the boundaries. Set the boundaries.
I really love you so much, though, because this is a constant
Mm.
lesson that I'm learning. It's just, you know, I'm still I think I've gotten a lot further along with this lesson,
Yeah.
but it's not over.
And I think deep
It's still,
down, we want to get along with people because we have this genuine um, nature, this genuine Gentile or Gentile nature, um, and
Mhm.
we, was that
we want con- we
connection,
want
but it's,
connection.
yeah, and I also but yeah, connection, but also we care about other people's well-being. So eventually, we just want to feel connected and feel family, you know. So it's very hard for us again, I guess, from the get-go. Say, wait, no, you don't get to do this with me. So we kind of, at least I'm a bit less rigid or strict when it comes to boundaries at first. You know?
Yeah, I mean, um, yeah, same here because, like I said,
Mm,
I'm learning it, but all I know is that when I have not expressed myself
yeah,
to that other person in aim of sparing their feelings, or when I've just given
mm,
them the benefit of the doubt, both things really come back to bite
yeah,
me and
yeah,
haunt me. Yeah, yeah. I had one situation where it really worked out. Like, I think the only thing that works out is
yeah,
accepting people as they are. Like how you're saying, like if there's certain people that you love, like especially when it comes to like family. So like you love this family member, um, but you kind of like in order to actually love them, you have to like accept them as they are with their flaws. And I'm not saying it's so easy, but it
mm,
kind of seems like that's the way to go is just take
yeah.
people as they are, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I will add to that that as I've heard or read in several times, um, well, by being clear with your boundaries from the get-go, you actually are being very, I guess, effective and diligent and fast and speedy at